Saffron is a spice derived from the flower of Crocus sativus, commonly known as the saffron crocus. Saffron crocus grows to 20 to 30 centimeters and bears up to 4 flowers, each with 3 vivid crimson stigmas, which are the distal end of a carpel. The styles and stigmas, called threads, are collected and dried to be used mainly as a seasoning and coloring agent in food. Saffron, long among the world's most costly spices by weight, is native to Greece or Southwest Asia and was first cultivated in Greece. As a genetically monomorphic clone, it was slowly propagated throughout much of Eurasia and was later brought to parts of North Africa, North America, and Oceania. The saffron crocus, unknown in the wild, probably descends from Crocus cartritinus, which originated in Crete. C. Thomasii and C. Pallasii are other possible precursors. The saffron crocus is a triploid, that is, self-incompatible, and male-sterile. It undergoes aberrant meiosis and is hence incapable of independent sexual reproduction, or propagation is by vegetative multiplication via manual divide and set of a starter clone or by interspecific hybridization. If C. sativus is a mutant form of C. cartritinus, then it may have emerged via plant breeding, which would have selected for elongated stigmas. In late Bronze Age Crete, sarin's taste and iodoform or hay-like fragrance result from the chemicals picrocrossen and saffronal. It also contains a carotenoid pigment, crocine, which imparts a rich golden yellow hue to dishes and textiles. Its recorded history is attested in a 7th century BC Assyrian botanical treatise compiled under Ashurbanipal, and it has been traded and used for over 4 millennia. Iran now accounts for approximately 90% of the world production of saffron. Etymology. A degree of uncertainty surrounds the origin of the English word saffron. It might stem from the 12th century Old French term saffron, which comes from the Latin word saffronum. Saffronym comes from the Persian intercessor ʻsæfrʒn, which may be ultimately from the unattested word *zarparin. Persian is the first language in which the use of saffron in cooking is recorded, with references dating back thousands of years. In India, it is often called kesar. In another Indian language, Urdu, it is called ßæfrʒn. Species. Description. The domesticated saffron crocus, Crocus sativus, is an autumn-flowering perennial plant unknown in the wild. Its progenitors are possibly the eastern Mediterranean autumn-flowering Crocus cartritinus, which is also known as wild saffron, and originated in Greece. The saffron crocus probably resulted when C. cartritinus was subjected to extensive artificial selection by growers seeking longer stigmas. C. Thomasii and C. Pallasii are other possible sources. It is a sterile triploid form, which means that 3 homologous sets of chromosomes compose each specimen's genetic complement. C. sativus bears 8 chromosomal bodies per set, making for 24 in total. Being sterile, the purple flowers of C. sativus fail to produce viable seeds. Reproduction hinges on human assistance. Clusters of corms, underground, bulb-like, starch-storing organs, must be dug up, divided, and replanted. A corm survives for 1 season, producing via this vegetative division up to 10 cormlets that can grow into new plants in the next season. The compact corms are small, brown globules that can measure as large as 5 centimeters in diameter, have a flat base, and are shrouded in a dense mat of parallel fibers. This coat is referred to as the corm tunic. Corms also bear vertical fibers, thin and net-like, that grow up to 5 centimeters above the plant's neck. The plant grows to a height of 20 to 30 centimeters, and sprouts 5 to 11 white and non-photosynthetic leaves known as cataphyls. These membrane-like structures cover and protect the crocus's 5 to 11 true leaves as they bud and develop. The latter are thin, straight, and blade-like green foliage leaves, which are 1 to 3 mm in diameter, which either expand after the flowers have opened or do so simultaneously with their blooming. C. Sativus catifles are suspected by some to manifest prior to blooming when the plant is irrigated relatively early in the growing season. Its floral axes, or flower-bearing structures, bear bracteoles, or specialized leaves, that sprout from the flower stems. The latter are known as pedicels. After estivating in spring, the plant sends up its true leaves, each up to 40 centimeters in length. In autumn, purple buds appear. Only in October, after most other flowering plants have released their seeds, do its brilliantly hued flowers develop. They range from a light pastel shade of lilac to a darker and more striated mauve. The flowers possess a sweet, honey-like fragrance. Upon flowering, plants average less than 30 centimeters in height. A three-pronged style emerges from each flower. Each prong terminates with a vivid crimson stigma 25 to 30 mm in length. Cultivation. Crocus sativus thrives in the Mediterranean maquis, an ecotype superficially resembling the North American chaparral, and similar climates where hot and dry summer breezes sweep semi-arid lands. It can nonetheless survive cold winters, tolerating frosts as low as -10 degrees Celsius and short periods of snow cover. Irrigation is required if grown outside of moist environments such as Kashmir, where annual rainfall averages 1,000 to 1,500 mm. Saffron-growing regions in Greece and Spain are far drier than the main cultivating Iranian regions. What makes this possible is the timing of the local wet seasons. Generous spring rains and drier summers are optimal. Rain immediately preceding flowering boosts saffron yields. Rainy or cold weather during flowering promotes disease and reduces yields. Persistently damp and hot conditions harm the crops, and rabbits, rats, and birds cause damage by digging up corms. Nematodes, leaf rusts, and corm rot pose other threats. Yet Bacillus subtilis inoculation may provide some benefit to growers by speeding corm growth and increasing stigma biomass yield. The plants fare poorly in shady conditions. They grow best in full sunlight. Fields that slope towards the sunlight are optimal. Planting is mostly done in June in the northern hemisphere, where corms are lodged 7 to 15 centimeters deep. Its roots, stems, and leaves can develop between October and February. Planting depth and corm spacing, in concert with climate, are critical factors in determining yields. Mother corms planted deeper yield higher quality saffron, though form fewer flower buds, and daughter corms. Italian growers optimize thread yield by planting 15 cm deep and in rows 2 to 3 cm apart. Depths of 8 to 10 cm optimize flower and corm production. Greek, Moroccan, and Spanish growers employ distinct depths and spacings that suit their locales. C. Sativus prefers friable, loose, low-density, well-watered, and well-drained clay calcareous soils with high organic content. Traditional raised beds promote good drainage. Soil organic content was historically boosted via application of some 20 to 30 tons of manure per hectare. Afterwards, and with no further manure application, corms were planted. After a period of dormancy through the summer, the corms send up their narrow leaves and begin to bud in early autumn. Only in mid-autumn do they flower. Harvests are by necessity a speedy affair. After blossoming at dawn, flowers quickly wilt as the day passes. All plants bloom within a window of 1 or 2 weeks. Roughly 150 flowers together yield 1 gram of dry saffron threads. To produce 12 grams of dried saffron moist and freshly harvested, 1 kilogram of flowers are needed. 1 pound yields 0.2 ounces of dried saffron. 1 freshly picked flower yields an average 30 milligrams of fresh saffron or 7 milligrams dried. Spice chemistry. Saffron contains more than 150 volatile and aroma-yielding compounds. It also has many non-volatile active components, many of which are carotenoids, including zeaxanthin, lycopene, and various alpha and beta-carotenes. However, saffron's golden yellow-orange color is primarily the result of alpha-crocine. This crocene is trans-crocetan diester. It bears the systematic name 8,8-diapo8, 8-carotenoic acid. This means that the crocene underlying saffron's aroma is a digentiobiester of the carotenoid crocetan. Crocenes themselves are a series of hydrophilic carotenoids that are either monoglycosyl or diglycosyl polyester esters of crocetan. Crocetan is a conjugated polyester dicarboxylic acid that is hydrophobic, and thus oil-soluble. When crocetan is esterified with two water-soluble gentiobioses, which are sugars, a product results that is itself water-soluble. The resultant alpha-crocene is a carotenoid pigment that may comprise more than 10% of dry saffron's mass. The two esterified gentiobioses make alpha-crocene ideal for coloring water-based and non-fatty foods such as rice dishes. The bitter glucoside picrocrocin is responsible for saffron's flavor. Picrocrocin -2,6-trimethylcyclohex-1-ene 1-carboxaldehyde is a union of an aldehyde subelement known as saffronal and a carbohydrate. It has insecticidal and pesticidal properties, and may comprise up to 4% of dry saffron. Picrocrocin is a truncated version of the carotenoid zeaxanthin that is produced via oxidative cleavage, and is the glycoside of the terpenealdehyde saffronal. The reddish-colored zeaxanthin is, incidentally, one of the carotenoids naturally present within the retina of the human eye. When saffron is dried after its harvest, the heat, combined with enzymatic action, splits picrocrocin to yield D-glucose and a free saffronal molecule. Saffronal, a volatile oil, gives saffron much of its distinctive aroma. Saffronal is less bitter than picrocrocin and may comprise up to 70% of dry saffron's volatile fraction in some samples. A second element underlying saffron's aroma is 2-hydroxy-4,6-trimethylhexadien-11, which produces a scent described as saffron, dried hay-like. Chemists find this is the most powerful contributor to saffron's fragrance, despite its presence in a lesser quantity than saffronal. Dry saffron is highly sensitive to fluctuating pH levels, and rapidly breaks down chemically in the presence of light and oxidizing agents. It must therefore be stored away in airtight containers to minimize contact with atmospheric oxygen. Saffron is somewhat more resistant to heat. Grades and ISO 3632 categories. Saffron is not all of the same quality and strength. Strength is related to several factors including the amount of style picked along with the red stigma. Age of the saffron is also a factor. More style included means the saffron is less strong gram for gram, because the color and flavor are concentrated in the red stigmas. Grades of Iranian saffron are Sargal, Pushal, or Pushali, Bunch, Saffron and Kong. Grades of Spanish saffron are Coupe, Mancha, and in order of further decreasing strength, Rio, Standard, and Sierra Saffron. The word Mancha in the Spanish classification can have two meanings: a general grade of saffron or a very high-quality Spanish-grown saffron from a specific geographical origin. Real Spanish-grown La Mancha saffron has PDO-protected status, and this is displayed on the product packaging. Spanish growers fought hard for protected status because they felt that imports of Iranian saffron repackaged in Spain and sold as Spanish Mancha saffron were undermining the genuine La Mancha brand. Countries producing less saffron do not have specialized words for different grades and may only produce one grade. Artisan producers in Europe and New Zealand have offset their higher labor charges for saffron harvesting by targeting quality, only offering extremely high-grade saffron. In addition to descriptions based on how the saffron is picked, saffron may be categorized under the international standard ISO 3632 after laboratory measurement of crocene, picrocrocin, and saffronal content. However, often there is no clear grading information on the product packaging, and little of the saffron readily available in UK is labelled with ISO category. This lack of information makes it hard for customers to make informed choices when comparing prices and buying saffron. Under ISO 3632, determination of non-stigma content and other extraneous matter such as inorganic material are also key. Grading standards are set by the International Organization for Standardization, a federation of national standards bodies. ISO 3632 deals exclusively with saffron and establishes 3 categories: 3, 2, and I. Formerly there was also Category IV, which was below Category 3. Samples are assigned categories by gauging the spice's crocine and picrocrocin content, revealed by measurements of specific spectrophotometric absorbance. Saffronal is treated slightly differently, and rather than there being threshold levels for each category, samples must give a reading of 20 to 50 for all categories. These data are measured through spectrophotometry reports at certified testing laboratories worldwide. Higher absorbances imply greater levels of crocine, picrocrocin and saffronal, and thus a greater coloring potential and therefore strength per gram. The absorbance reading of crocine is known as the coloring strength of that saffron. Saffron's coloring strength can range from lower than 80 up to 200 or greater. The world's finest samples receive coloring strengths in excess of 250, making such saffron over 3 times more powerful than Category IV saffron. Market prices for saffron types follow directly from these ISO categories. Sargal and Coupe saffron would typically fall into ISO 3632 Category I. Pushal and Mancha would probably be assigned to Category 2. On many saffron packaging labels, neither the ISO 3632 category nor the coloring strength is displayed. However, many growers, traders, and consumers reject such lab test numbers. Some people prefer a more holistic method of sampling batches of threads for taste, aroma, pliability, and other traits in a fashion similar to that practiced by experienced wine tasters. However, ISO 3632 grading coloring strength information allow consumers to make instant comparisons between the quality of different saffron brands, without needing to purchase and sample the saffron. In particular, consumers can work out value for money based on price per unit of coloring strength rather than price per gram, given the wide possible range of coloring strengths that different kinds of saffron can have. Despite attempts at quality control and standardization, an extensive history of saffron adulteration, particularly among the cheapest grades, continues into modern times. Adulteration was first documented in Europe's Middle Ages, when those found selling adulterated saffron were executed under the Saffron Show Code. Typical methods include mixing in extraneous substances like beetroot, pomegranate fibers, red-dyed silk fibers, or the saffron crocus's tasteless and odorless yellow stamens. Other methods included dousing saffron fibers with viscid substances like honey or vegetable oil to increase their weight. However, powdered saffron is more prone to adulteration, with turmeric, paprika, and other powders used as diluting fillers. Adulteration can also consist of selling mislabeled mixes of different saffron grades. Thus, in India, high-grade Kashmira saffron is often sold and mixed with cheaper Iranian imports. These mixes are then marketed as pure Kashmira saffron, a development that has cost Kashmiri growers much of their income. Types: the various saffron crocus cultivars give rise to thread types that are often regionally distributed and characteristically distinct. Varieties from Spain, including the trade names Spanish Superior and Creme, are generally mellower in color, flavor, and aroma. They are graded by government-imposed standards. Italian varieties are slightly more potent than Spanish. The most intense varieties tend to be Iranian. Various boutique crops are available from New Zealand, France, Switzerland, England, the United States, and other countries, some of them organically grown. In the U.S. Pennsylvania, Dutch saffron, known for its earthy notes, is marketed in small quantities. Consumers may regard certain cultivars as premium quality. The Aquila saffron, or Zafferano dell'Aquila, is defined by high saffronal and crocine content, distinctive thread shape, unusually pungent aroma, and intense color. It is grown exclusively on 8 hectares in the Nivelli Valley of Italy's Abruzzo region, near L'Aquila. It was first introduced to Italy by a Dominican monk from Inquisition-era Spain. But the biggest saffron cultivation in Italy is in San Gavin Monreale, Sardinia, where it is grown on 40 hectares, representing 60% of Italian production. It too has unusually high crocine, picrocrocin, and saffronal content. Another is the Mongra, or lacquer, saffron of Kashmir, which is among the most difficult for consumers to obtain. Repeated droughts, blights, and crop failures in Kashmir combined with an Indian export ban, contribute to its prohibitive overseas prices. Kashmiri saffron is recognizable by its dark maroon-purple hue. It is among the world's darkest, which hints at strong flavor, aroma, and coloring effect.